Everything that has a beginning has an end.
Everyone loves the first Matrix movie. The visual effects blew the world away in 1999, the action sequences are some of the best in film history, it dared to ask philosophical questions that no other action movie would, and even the score shows us some new forms of storytelling through sound. It's one of those movies that comes along and just changes the language of cinema. 20 years later, I keep finding new things to appreciate about it. In this video, we're going to take a look at the sequels, and why most people choose to ignore them when talking about The Matrix. Let's get one thing straight. The Matrix films are live-action anime.
I first met Larry and Andy when I read Assassin. They showed me this animated Japanese cartoon, and they said, we want to do that for real.
And according to a lot of influential anime directors, the Wachowskis were successful.
やっぱりそのカット割りだとかね、そういうとこで自分もよくやるようなカット割りと似てるなとかっていうふうには思ったんだけど、やっぱり実写でやるとそれが全然味わいが違っちゃうし、やっぱ実写でここまでやられちゃったら、俺ら次どうやって使ったらすごい映像作れるかなっていうところがやっぱり非常に不安にもさせてくれたね。
So it's important to think of this trilogy in the context of the established world of the anime genre, and not just as a sci-fi action franchise. If you don't, things like this are going to seem really weird. Here's another example. If you had just watched Kill Bill, and you'd never seen a kung fu movie before, you might think it was a little weird. Why do the characters talk like that? Why does he keep using those weird shots? And why is blood spraying from everybody's body like a fucking fountain? But if you're familiar with kung fu movies, you're able to watch Kill Bill with the context you need to appreciate them. That's what the Wachowskis are doing with the Matrix films, only the genre they're emulating is anime. If you're not a fan of anime, then you won't get what the Wachowskis are doing. This doesn't look like a movie, it looks like an anime. That's the point. You usually don't see stuff like fighting ghosts, casual conversations with gods, or evil monster overlords in your typical action movie, but that's all pretty run-of-the-mill stuff for anime. Released around the same time as the second film, the Wachowskis produced an anime anthology series called The Animatrix. It gives us a prelude to the whole trilogy, and while you can perfectly enjoy the trilogy without watching The Animatrix, you're really missing out if you do. 3 of the shorts were written by the Wachowskis, and they tie in perfectly with the trilogy. One of them, The Second Renaissance, tells the story of the fall of man and the rise of the machines. No, not you. It's got some genuinely beautiful images in it, and it represents the Wachowskis' best effort at humanizing the machines. See, the machines aren't evil, they just don't want to be murdered. It's mankind that's evil for trying to enslave them. So much for a one-dimensional antagonist.
Hand over your flesh, and a new world awaits you. We demand it.
Another one of the great shorts in this series is called Kid's Story. It revisits some story elements of the first film by showing us a character desperately seeking the truth. He knows his world is false, and he's desperate for someone to tell him how. More beautiful artwork here. Kid's belief in Neo is actually so strong that he's able to unplug himself from the Matrix.
I didn't save you, kid. You saved yourself.
And he actually shows up in the trilogy and plays a minor role.
Neo, I believe.
The first movie is mostly character introductions and exposition. We meet the doubtful Thomas Anderson who goes by the hacker alias Neo. Morpheus explains what the Matrix is and how the rules can be broken through a series of tutorials. Halfway through the movie, we meet the Oracle, and she introduces the idea of determinism. If you don't know what that is, check out our video on the first movie that covers everything that led it to being a masterpiece. While you're at it, like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Once Neo is confronted with the life and death decision to either keep running or stand and fight, he chooses to believe he can beat Agent Smith, and because he believes he can, he does. The second movie follows the same template as the first one. About an hour of exposition and character introductions, occasionally interrupted by awesome action scenes like the Burly Brawl with Agent Smith. At the midpoint, Neo meets the Merovingian, who extrapolates on the ideas of determinism expressed in the first film. Now Neo's starting to doubt himself again. He's all-powerful, but is he really in control?
Shit.
Before we get an answer, the Wachowskis serve up the greatest car chase of all time. The third film is just the conclusion of the story. Humanity makes their final stand in Zion, Neo and Smith delete each other, and the Matrix is rebuilt. You might think the third film stands as the weakest, but only if you look at it as a standalone story. Talking about revolutions outside the context of the rest of the trilogy is like saying The Return of the King is a bad movie because it's mostly just a big war and the characters don't really change. Well, yeah, but the third movie is what the story is all about, and if you only watch The Fellowship of the Ring, then you've only seen the exposition. A lot of trilogies get made because a movie does really well, and the studio thinks they can stretch their profits out into 3 acts. That's not the case with The Matrix.
I've been involved in a lot of sequels where the story ended in the first movie, and the studio would say, you know, that movie was successful, let's make another movie. But this movie was designed as a piece of serial fiction. This story continued. The Wachowski brothers had it in their heads.
From early drafts of the reloaded script, we can tell they didn't have all the ideas fully fleshed out, but it's clear that they had an overarching narrative in mind for all 3 films. Which is more than can be said about some other big studio trilogies.
That was a cheap move.
The Matrix trilogy isn't a case of one great movie getting tarnished by unnecessary add-ons. It's just one 6-hour film with 2 intermissions. When you understand that, you can begin to experience the movie the way the directors intended. The first movie gave us an exciting and flashy introduction to the story, but when the Wachowskis started explaining why the one exists and how the machines took over, audiences lost interest.
Shit.
All of the same elements from the first movie are here. The only thing that changes is the size of the cast. We get the same kind of action, only ramped up, and we continue exploring the lengths of determinism. So what were the Wachowskis trying to say with these movies?
The function of the one is now to return to the source, allowing a temporary dissemination of the code you carry, reinserting the prime program.
What, it's not obvious? This scene really seems to throw a lot of people for a loop. But this is where the architect summarizes the foundation of what these movies are about, so it's important to pay attention. The architect and the Oracle are playing a game, and the goal is to keep as many people plugged into the Matrix as they can for as long as possible. If a bunch of people start waking up, then the machines will have to go wipe out Zion again to stop them from becoming a threat. The architect doesn't know how to keep people happy, so the Oracle was written into the Matrix to help him learn about people. She learns that people need to feel like they have some control over their own lives to feel content, so the architect adds a little bit of what looks like free will into the program, and it makes everyone happy. Of course, with free will, people start doing problematic things, like falling in love, which causes the whole system to break down over time, and inevitably some anomalies occur.
Shit.
So the architect and Oracle guide the anomalies toward each other in hopes that they'll just cancel each other out, and the whole Matrix can be reset with minimal losses. I know, the Oracle is a sweet old lady, and we're painting her in a pretty bad light, but remember, this is what she was programmed to do. She doesn't have a choice. So when Neo's like, Why? She tells him,
Because you didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it.
The Oracle knows it's pretty messed up to gaslight someone into thinking they're a messiah, but she's just as much a slave as they are. She's motivated to throw each anomaly a little bit more off their destined path, and if she successfully disrupts the cycle, then she, and humanity, will be free. The Matrix trilogy tries to answer philosophical questions that great philosophers have been asking for the last 3,000 years. Are we all living in a simulation? Are there forces pulling elaborate strings that guide our lives? How do we know if we have free will? What's the point in living if we can't prove that we're not all just pawns in some massive game? The Wachowskis suggest that the answer to all these questions is simple.
The answer is simple. I love my daughter very much.
It's the one thing that separates humans from machines. We're slaves to our biology, but love is unpredictable. Every trap the machines set gets foiled by love. The architect told him that every decision Neo makes is just a part of his programming, but whenever he acts out of love, he's denying his programming. Neo doesn't die here because Trinity loves him. Trinity doesn't die here because Neo loves her. Neo is programmed to comply with the architect by letting humanity die and rebuilding Zion. But because he has love, he acts emotionally, irrationally, and love is something the machines can't predict. Smith, much like the architect, doesn't understand choice, and it scares him.
Get away from me! What are you?
The Wachowskis are saying if you feel like you live in a world that's totally beyond your control, the most human thing you can do to rebel against your oppressors is love.
All you need is love.
Please don't start that again.
The character Sati is born as a manifestation of love between two programs. She's the daughter of Ramachandra, who is the power plant systems manager for recycling operations, and the daughter of a highly creative interactive software programmer. She physically represents love in the story, and because the machines can't understand love, she seems unnecessary, and they try to delete her. She escapes the agents and goes to live with the Oracle, where she learns the most valuable lesson.
Cookies need love like everything does.
Now Sati, the Oracle, and the other surviving programs can rebuild the Matrix in the image of love, and the cycle can continue. So Sati needs to exist in order for the interactive software, i.e. the Matrix, to have someone in charge of maintaining the recycled system. Got it? If you can't watch the Matrix trilogy through the lens of anime, and you can't understand that each movie is a necessary part of one story, then you're just not going to connect with the material. It's easier to say the first movie is great and the sequels are bad than it is to admit that you might just not understand the sequels. But that doesn't make it true. The Wachowskis laid out a beautiful 6-hour sci-fi epic about love, reality, control, technology, and so much more. They seamlessly adapted a two-dimensional art form into a living, breathing trilogy of films that changed people's understanding of what an action movie could be, and they looked cool as hell doing it. To appreciate it is to understand it.
Shit.
Ergo, concordantly, vis-a-vis. You know what? I have no idea what the hell I'm saying. I just thought it would make me sound cool.
You haven't answered my question.
Yes, I did. You see,
You haven't answered my...
I'm trying. You just need to let me talk.
Why am I here?
Would you shut up?
You won't let it...
No, you won't let it! I'm the one who talks! Okay, mouth shut, ears open!
You haven't answered...
You do not want to see me get out of this chair! Ergo, open your yapper one more time and I'm gonna architect a world of pain all over your candy ass! Ergo! Vis-a-vis!
This is about...
Concordantly!